Do you want to be like most men? Think about what the average man in, let's say, our age group would be. I'm guessing if you're watching this video, you're probably maybe between like 15 and 25, right? Or 15 and 30, let's say. What does the average man in that age group look like? Like, look around you for a second at the people that you're associated with. Maybe that you're associated with not by choice, but by the mere fact that you have to work with these people or be in school with these people. Do you want to be like most men? I fucking don't. Can tell you that much. And I'm pretty sure if you're watching this video, you don't either. I'm not gonna have much editing in this video, bro. I hope you don't mind. But I think if you're someone who watches this channel, you're someone with a great attention span, so I don't think you're gonna have a problem getting through this video. I think you'd probably not like it as much if there was a bunch of things flying around and fancy editing or whatever. But if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see that you can follow me or not, it doesn't really matter. But I do post on there quotes and just bits of wisdom that I find. It's basically me shirtless or me posting like philosophy stuff. There's like almost no in between. So if you're into either of those things, no, I'm kidding. But I posted recently a quote that just came to me while I was creating a course that I'm creating at the moment. So I'm just gonna put the quote on the screen right now because me reading it out is gonna be fairly difficult. But, so this is the quote, right? Now the reason I posted this is because so much of the arguments, or so many of the arguments in the red pill manosphere space, they always begin with the premise, most of them begin with the premise that if you are a man who is masculine, you will agree that, right? That's what the argument starts with. So this is an argument from consensus, right? This is saying, look, there is consensus on this thing between men, therefore that gives validity to the argument. I hope you see how this quickly falls apart. Because if most men agree on something, and you think about what the average man is like, and he's not particularly high consciousness, he's not really thinking things through, he's just going off of his base, kind of like, you know, well, yeah, now that sounds right, yeah, that would irritate me, yeah, right? And then so you get consensus. So, do you want to be like the average man? You want to be like most men? If most men agree on something, is that proof of its validity? I don't think so. Not for me at least, because I don't want to be like the average fucking man. I don't want to be like most men. So if most men agree on something, I don't take that as... And it's strange because we're social creatures, so we are drawn to take consensus as almost as truth. But consensus can be a good guide for truth. I'm not saying that it isn't, right? If there is broad consensus on something, then it's worth looking into why that is true, but you still have to use your own rational faculties and your own discernment and your own logos to observe and inspect this thing and come to a decision for yourself, right? You can't, I think it's dangerous to outsource that to consensus, okay? To outsource that thinking to consensus. Especially if you're an individual that is trying to be exceptional. Like if you're trying to be exceptional, then by definition, you are going to have mindsets, you're going to have frames of behaving, and you're going to have actions that you're taking in your life that are naturally going to differ from the norm, right? And so this is maybe still a little bit pie in the sky, so let me try and find a good example of this. So recently, Hamza, one of Hamza's videos that he posted on this sort of like a people asking him questions. Hamza is another self-improvement YouTuber. People ask him questions about things in their life. So there was this guy that said, I'm trying to remember, but he said like, I'm running into issues with the current girl that I'm with. I keep thinking about her past and the previous guys that she's been with. I don't know if I should, it's really bugging me. I don't know if I should continue with this girl or not, right? Every man knows, like if you're really a masculine man and you're protective and territorial and all these things, you know that thinking about your girl's past is going to give you this visceral, gut-wrenching fucking feeling of just disgust almost, right? You're just the thought of her with any other man, past, present, or future, is going to make you want to hurl, right? Now, that is a universal masculine man experience, right? Does that mean that acting from that place is going to bring you something good, right? Does that mean that, so essentially, and by the way, I really like Hamza, by the way, I think he's a great guy, but I fully disconnect with what he said. Like, I completely disagree, and I think that he completely missed the mark, because his prescription, well, his diagnosis was good. It was basically what I'm saying. It's like, look, if you're a man, this is going to bother you, etc., right? But his prescription was, look, these feelings of thinking about a past and whatever, they're going to overwhelm you, right? And it's going to be almost like a mental disorder. You're going to be checking like the guys that she was previously with, you're going to be on their Instagram, like trying to see who they are and trying to compare yourself to them, and it's almost like a mental illness. And these feelings are going to be so strong that, and you're just not going to be able to shake them. If you get these feelings with this girl, you should just end it. The best thing you can do is just walk away, because otherwise these feelings are going to consume you, and then them consuming you is eventually going to ruin the relationship. That, again, it is a universal masculine experience to feel that gut-wrenching pain, but the response to that, at least in my view, shouldn't be, oh, well, I'm going to lose to these feelings anyway, so I should just leave. Isn't that just cowardice? I really think that is just cowardice masquerading as, oh, I'm a man that has high standards. There can be nothing wrong. There cannot be a single blip of something that I dislike in my woman's past. Right? That's cowardice masquerading as high standards. Why? Because you're a man that has to have everything be perfect with your woman. What happened to being someone who is unbothered? What happened to being a man that is strong and unshakable? What happened to being a mountain? Just because something's gonna come up now that brings up those toxic parts of you, by the way, that really like harp on, like Hamza himself said it, right? He said that it's literally like a mental illness almost, like in that video, right? It's true. So why is then the next conclusion that you draw that I should give in to these toxic parts of me? Is that not just cowardice? I would argue that it is, because I would argue that the most masculine thing you can do is confront those horrible thoughts that you get about someone's past, right? And especially if they have no bearing on your future, because then the next argument that you can make is, well, Chris, the past matters. Okay, yes, it does. Why does it matter? The past only matters insofar as it allows you to make decisions and predict the future, right? So for example, if you're with a girl that genuinely has a lot of red flags, right, or whatever in her past, of ways that she's treated her past boyfriends, you can look at that and be like, yeah, okay, so she cheated on that guy, and she cheated on that guy, and she cheated on this one multiple times. It's useful to know that information insofar as that helps you to predict your future with this person. You can go, I can extrapolate out what's gonna happen here. I'm gonna get fucked, right? So let me back out. But that's all that the past is supposed to help you with. If you're thinking about a girl's past and it doesn't have any bearing on your future with her whatsoever, and you're just toiling about past guys that she's loved or past guys that she's, had sex with or something, like, that's just shit that bothers you as a man, yes. But is the answer to that to fold? You can fold, sure, but I don't think that that's the most masculine way to go about this, right? Because again, like I said, what happened to being unshakable? What happened to being the man that confronts his demons and doesn't surrender to them, right? So, consensus, right? Again, any masculine man will be like, yeah, that, like, thinking about my girl's past really, really fucks with me. It can really, really fuck with me. That's consensus, right? But if most men are going to then take from that consensus and say, okay, I need to give in, I should just give up, right? Or even worse, right? I should follow these fears and insecurities that are masculine parts of me that are honestly actually like the toxic parts of masculinity, right? Because masculinity can tend towards it's too much order, right? It can tend towards totalitarianism. It can tend towards control and just being authoritarian, right? Being too controlling. That's taken to its extreme. That's what masculinity can become, right? And then when you're there, you're just acting from a place of utter fear and insecurity. That's when you start restricting all your girlfriend's or your wife or whatever's actions, right? You start literally treating them like subhuman, right? You control them so much, you become a tyrant, right? And so in any relationship, if you become a tyrant, that means you're making the person your slave. It becomes a tyrant-slave dynamic, right? There's no such thing as you becoming a tyrant and this person still being a free human being. Oh boy, that's not gonna fucking happen, trust me, right? You're gonna be a tyrant and that's gonna make them your slave because you're gonna be telling them what they can and cannot do and this and that. Why? Because you are acting from a place of fear. So much fear, but you're letting it control you because you're like, well, this is natural, isn't it? I'm a man. These are natural feelings that I feel as a man. Therefore, I should follow these natural feelings. Again, you're now committing a fallacy. This is a logical fallacy, okay? It's called the naturalistic fallacy, okay? And what it asserts is that just because something is a certain way doesn't mean that it ought to be, right? Doesn't mean that just because it is natural for you to feel these, these toxic emotions as a man of wanting to, let's say, control certain parts of a woman because you're afraid that she's going to leave and you're afraid that she's going to do something that hurts you and that is natural, yes. Does that mean that you ought to continue in that mode of being and that mode of being is the best for both of you and for the relationship and for eventually raising children with this woman? No. Going from an is to an ought in this sense is you're committing a logical fallacy, okay? So just because you do feel like, look, this thing bugs me, and just because all men will agree with you that it does bug them too, doesn't mean that consensus paired with the naturalistic fallacy is what everybody in the manosphere space is now the pit that you're all falling into and that I have fallen into. Fuck, seriously, right? Because you're like, well, yeah, no, that is a universal masculine experience, and yeah, it seems like everybody feels that too. And then someone goes, well, hey, you know what we should do about this? Because we feel like we should control this thing and everybody agrees, then we should control this thing, right? Or we should basically have the perfect woman. We should, these are just examples that I can think of off the top of my head, right? And then so you fall into that pit. So I would go back to the question, do you want to be like most men? Just because most men agree about something, is that supposed to tell you something about how valid it is? Or honestly, is it supposed to point to the pathological nature of the modern person? Because look, like I said, the average fucking man that you know is probably nowhere near what you want to be like. What you and I, as men, like if you watching this channel, I presume that you want to be someone who does something. You want to be a man that is purposeful and that does something valuable in the world, that makes an impact in the world, that really actually knows how to care for his family and protect his loved ones, right? Is the average man anything like that? I don't think so. So I don't look at consensus as a good indicator amongst men that this is the right mode of being. Because I don't want to be like most men. I've never wanted, I've never felt that way. I've never felt like most guys do. I've had a lot of opinions and a lot of stances that I have on things aren't common, right? And so why should I look to what most men are thinking and feeling for truth? That's not the place that I want to be looking for truth, right? So this is just a little conversation that I wanted to have with you based on a quote that came to me a few days ago. Because I think we just fall into this pit too easily these days. And it doesn't help that the social media algorithms promote to us all of this content that again, it's confirmation bias, okay? Like the algorithm will promote to you opinions that you already have, and just trying to like dig you deeper into this hole. It'll show you stuff that, you know, based on the past content that you've actually like liked on the platform, it'll show you similar content, and it will just feed into all of these things, and we get so deep into these pits, right? We get so deep into these circles, and I think it is the hallmark of an untrained mind to obviously not examine what you are consuming and who this person even is, and whether they have your best interests at heart when they're speaking. And also just going back to, you know, being affected by things like with your woman and everything, because I just think that that's a very visceral example. It's the hallmark, again, of an untrained mind to experience all of those visceral feelings and not be able to extract yourself out and look at the bigger picture and think like, is this actually something that's healthy or not? Like, is this something that's valuable to me to feel this way? Is there anything new here for me to discover, right? Is me thinking and ruminating about the past, am I ever going to fill in some blank there by constantly revisiting it? Because that's what you're doing when you're toiling about, you know, let's say your girl's past. There's nothing in there for you. Once you've thought about it like 16 times, which you probably have within a span of a fucking day, right? Once you've thought about it all the times that you have, you keep going back to it, but there's nothing there for you. You're never going to suddenly get there and fill in some blank that's there that, you know, that you couldn't figure out before. So that's just rumination at that point. So then it's the hallmark, in my opinion, of an untrained mind to just be blown around by those emotions and to just give in because, oh, well, it's natural, isn't it? It's like, yeah, it's natural, but that doesn't mean that it's healthy. That doesn't mean that it serves your well-being the best or the well-being of your relationship, right? That's the naturalistic fallacy. Don't commit that shit. Don't commit that fucking logical fallacy, because it's so easy to fall into. It's the combination of consensus that is promoted by social media. We see all this consensus going on. Yeah. The other guys feel this too. Yeah, other guys feel this too. I'm right to feel this way, right? And then the combination of that and the naturalistic fallacy, which is, well, isn't it natural for me as a man to feel this way? Yes, it is perfectly natural. Does that mean that it's good? No, it not necessarily. It could, but if it does, it's just by sheer coincidence. It's by sheer probability that whatever it is that you're naturally feeling is good. But it's not an inference that you can directly make. Okay. So I don't know. I hope that this video made you think about things in a certain, in a different light, because I know that I fall into the trap a lot of being like, oh yeah, well, most men agree with this thing. Yeah. So, it's right that I feel this. Like, you got to think for yourself. It's always the number one fucking superpower that you can have as a man is using your own rational discernment and thinking for yourself, right? Just because you have a view that isn't mainstream doesn't mean that you're not still a bot. Because a bot is not someone who has a mainstream view. A bot is someone who doesn't think for themselves. So just because you watch one Hamza video, you watch one Tate video, and then now you have a different opinion than like 90% of the population, and you're like, oh yeah, like I'm fucking Redpill, I'm fucking base. You're still a bot. You're just a bot for someone else's opinion now, and no longer the mainstream opinion. You're just a bot, or you're just a dick rider for like whatever opinion is now contrarian. Okay, so what separates you from these people, from bots of all kinds, is your ability to think for yourself. All right, so I'm gonna leave it there. I hope that this video was useful to you in some sense. If you want to see like more of these little snippets of bits of wisdom that I get from books or from whatever that just come to me, I post them on my Instagram a fair bit. Like I said, it's either me shirtless or me posting, little bits of wisdom and quotes and stuff. So if you want, you can check that out, and you can follow me there if you're so inclined to do so. Hope you like this video. Like, comment, subscribe if you like this kind of stuff, because this is the style of video that I'm always going to be posting. I'll always want to be sharing my thoughts with you guys and hearing what you have to say, right? Please let me know in the comments if you agree or if you disagree, right? If you think that I'm an idiot, tell me, right? I want to know. I genuinely want to know. So yeah, take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.